We'll start with the Budget and Administration Committee. Mr. Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bill number 34-25A, transfer of $20,820.21, Department 0043, Fleet.
Good evening, council members. Bree Roberts, Director of Physical Assets, and I have Galen Pelletier here with me. He's the fleet manager. So this transfer is requesting ARP funds coming from the operating leases account over to the equipment account for the items that were stipulated in your packet. I can run through those if you like. Essentially, it is a bunch of items that we found were needed as upfit items or equipment items that needed to be added to the enterprise vehicles, and we did not have an equipment line, and so this rectifies that.
Does anybody have any questions for Bree? Mr. Catanzari.
Thank you. Bree, can you identify where the monies are coming from?
Yep, so
On
the money actually sits within the operating leases account in Fund 8950 ARP funds. That money was actually encumbered on a large enterprise PO at the end of 2024, and so we kind of incrementally decreased the encumbrance on that PO in order to utilize it for other things.
And we're looking for highway maintenance, GL generator, PSAP tower, and prosecutor's office. Is that what the expenditure?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Anyone else? If not, then do I have a motion?
Motion send favorably.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tanner. Councilwoman Shabazz, Engineering and Transportation Committee.
Bill number 3425B, transfer $78,065.97, Department 00262-0076, IPG.
Good evening, Sky Matters, Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth, offices on the 7th and 11th floor of the building. What this out-of-line transfer is for is we're taking, as it shows, about roughly $78,000 from calcium chloride account and moving it to repair vehicles, interest on debt and principals, and all this is still within the MVH unrestricted fund. And then once the money's there, we're going to then do a journal correction to correct some billings that were billed from should have been billed from this account, but were billed from a different fund. So this corrects that. Misbilling, I guess is a word. It could be.
Are there any
So I'm
questions?
happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to send favorably.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes favorably.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Shabazz. Human Services Criminal Justice Committee, Councilwoman Hess.
Yes, first up, Shelton, is bill number 3525, salary amendment, 0049-0039-0025 JJC, transfer of $65,947.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Halpin from the law firm Halpin Slaw PC, 521 West Colfax Avenue, South Bend. And I've got Kristen Cooper, the controller. Thank you. I was trying to combine them. The controller at the JJC, 1000 South Michigan Street. I'm hopeful that you received the explanation of this prior to tonight. I was assured you would be sent an explanation. Did that happen? You didn't get it? Okay. So my apologies that you did not receive it in advance. So we're essentially asking that 2 errors on the previous approved ordinances be corrected. And actually, Councilman Tanner was the one who noticed that the magistrate was not receiving any additional funds for being the Director of Policy Management and Development. So the policy of, the Director of Policy Management and Development was listed on the ordinance, but inadvertently, the fund number was not, or the amount of the pay was not listed beside it in the full amount. So we are requesting, and again, this is still budget neutral, it was just left off the form. She would receive $42,000 for that role, and the director, let's see, what's her title?
The chief of staff.
Thank you. The chief of staff also is not receiving the amount that she was offered, and that would include an additional $26,000. So both of these amounts would be coming from the capital fund that was explained last time. And I think, so we're just requesting that those transfers be made from the capital fund to those 2 jobs.
Any questions?
I guess I'd like to add also that there were no payments made for these prior. I know that was a concern last time, so there haven't been any payments made until approval of this would occur.
Okay, so there weren't payments made, but that was a promise upon hire that this is a
Yes.
salary they were gonna,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
other question, yeah, Mr. Katan's right.
I'm not on your committee, Ms. Hess, may I ask a question? Ms. Halpin, I'm just trying to clarify the chief of staff position. I'm not looking at my 2024 budget book, but it was at 0 last year, or that position didn't exist last year?
It did not. It is, hold on. I'm sorry.
I know
I'll let-
you guys did
I'm
this
sorry,
was-
it was the executive director position,
Okay,
and it has now been renamed the chief of staff.
okay.
But there have been additional duties added to it, and so she's just got a wider range of responsibility than the director did.
Okay. I just am concerned on the salary amount overall. It would be one of the highest paying positions in county government outside of the director of our airport. And I'm just not sure it's going to be sustainable, given what's happened with Senate Enrolled Act 1
Not just that,
and other things moving forward, but
revenue.
it just concerns me a little bit on the amount. I'm not on this committee, but it's a high amount for a salary for a county employee. Maybe, would you have the ability to explain what the additional duties are besides the previous executive director?
I'm going to let Kristen do that in just a second,
Okay.
but the previous director was paid a few $1,000s lower, however, also had a consulting contract for $25,000 a month that supplemented his income. So this is actually, this pay is about 1/3 of what his total income was. So I'd like to just say that first, but
So
I will
was the
let,
consulting contract part of the Rites of Passage organization?
yes, it was part of that.
Okay.
And so this director, or excuse me, this particular person is not going to be doing that consulting, receiving that income. Also, then I will let Kristen Cooper explain the added.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't have the proper documentation with me here. A couple weeks ago, you were given job descriptions, and I believe the chief of staff might have been in that. I do know that she is overseeing more of the detention facility and social services. She's being more involved in the care of the juveniles, making sure programs are put in place. There's also more administrative roles with employees that she has taken on. And I know she's working closely with the courts, being more involved with placements, with the juveniles, just a lot of different, various duties throughout the facility.
So is this the role that Dr. Brunsma had?
Correct.
Okay, so he had specific psychological, I mean, he was a PhD in psychology, and so he filled a significant need there, right, for the JJC. So is this person doing any of that, or has that been replaced in another way, or?
We have a different psychologist on staff, and then we've got our social services staff, and then we have Dr. Burnett, who's a psychologist who is contractually there to assist.
Okay, so that's one reason, though, he received $25,000 for consulting, is because he had that specialty. But that's just my comment. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I do. If we take away the $25,000, which Ms. Hess just referred to why he was paid that, what was Dr. Burisma's salary? Do we know what that was?
Oh, it was currently budgeted for, I believe, $146,000 this year.
$146,000.
Yes, which is what the current chief of staff is receiving.
Okay. And I'm trying to, because you guys have thrown some information at us at different times, and we've got different executive level positions here we didn't have. And so I'm trying to understand what part of Dr. Burisma's job, the current chief of staff, is that Ms. Lloyd? Is that, do I have the name correct there?
Miss Lord,
Ms. Lord.
yes.
What part of his job Ms. Lord is doing, and what part of his job has been given to other members of the executive staff, since we have more people in the executive staff?
Right, I think new jobs have been created. Different people are overseeing different sections of the facility, whereas Dr. Brunsman kind of oversaw it all. I think now we have more people to give more detail, more time, so that more resources can be put in place and more detail for each of these different positions and detention,
Okay.
social services, things like that.
So that's kind of the answer I expected, that he oversaw it all. But now we have several people involved in doing what he did, but you're asking us to give Ms. Lord a raise, and it doesn't look like she's doing as much as he did.
The services have been expanded. There wasn't a lot of opportunity to speak about that previously, but so he was more of an overseer. He didn't perform the task himself. So there were people still performing the task, they just didn't have the title. Also, it wasn't an extra $25,000, it was an extra $25,000 a month.
Right. Okay. But that was related to his work with rites of passage? Okay.
It said it was, we don't know the details of that. It is part of a consulting contract that is in the contract with rite of passage or safe passage, one or the other.
Okay.
So
My other go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
I
No,
didn't mean
you
to
go ahead.
interrupt you, but, so my understanding is that would be the part of his work that involved the PhD being a psychologist. So the current
Sure.
person is not a psychologist and is not doing that type of work, but she is managing the detention. She's in charge of the security. She's in charge of the things that Ms. Cooper said. So it's actually more than he's doing because she's very hands-on. Currently, she's been putting in approximately 50 to 60 hours a week. So she's, it's not as, I understand your concern, but it's not like it sounded.
Okay.
Just let me
Yeah,
interject.
please go ahead.
Dr. Brunsman, of course, was brought in because we had a lawsuit, and there were federal obligations we had to meet, so his expertise was needed, and he was, my understanding, he was very much hands-on with the kids, so I don't know, I could be wrong about that, but.
I don't mean to insult him. I don't mean it that way,
No,
but
no, I-
from a psychological perspective, he was very hands-on with the children, for sure.
Dan, did you have any more?
Yeah, I did. We've seen, this is the second time you've come to us, and we're moving money away from other positions, we're moving money away from other expense columns here into the salaries of the executive level people. One thing I want to make sure you understand, given what's happening downstate, where we're probably going to see less funding than we would have otherwise with the property tax cuts, we're not, when budget season comes, we will expect you to come in with the numbers that you have like for travel and mileage, after you've reduced them in these requests, in these ordinances. We're not going to be able to bump those numbers back up. You know, money's going to be, when it comes to certain different areas, money's going to be tight simply because we're going to have less than we would have otherwise. Correct. I want to make sure you understand that because, I mean, you're cutting your office equipment repair, you're cutting information technology. I mean, you're cutting in areas that would seem to be necessary.
We did, and that was taken into consideration when we were moving or asking for the money to be moved. We looked at the accounts where we felt we hadn't used that money in the past or that we would not be able to use in the near future.
Okay.
I just, obviously, coming on new and just trying to, I appreciate that it's budget neutral, but I do have that same kind of concerns of just looking forward future. One thing that might be helpful, at least for me, is almost like a flow chart kind of who's doing what, where, and how it goes, because I hear it all and see it all, but just to actually like maybe have something that shows like, I don't know, it's just for how my brain works, so something that.
We have a corporate chart that shows what the positions are and who reports to who and what they cover, so we could get that to you.
That would be, I would appreciate that. And so then, the $25,000 a month that he was getting paid, is that now going to, you said there's another you hired a psychiatrist or a psychologist to take the place of who wasn't, or there's not a psychiatrist anymore?
I think he's still getting paid it because we're not receiving the money, or the county's getting paid it, but it's not coming into the JJC.
I don't think it was necessarily, I think that was maybe a fee that Dr. Brunsum himself was receiving from rite of passage. I don't believe that the county was involved in that consulting fee, at least under my understanding.
Mr. Murphy, can you clarify?
I don't know for sure. We'd have to look into.
Can we take a look at that, please?
Sure.
Yeah, and was it 25,000 a month he was getting? That seems high.
Look at it. I wasn't aware of that number either.
Before we continue, I have gotten some complaints, everyone up here, that we need to speak closer to the mics because people aren't hearing us. So when you speak, please try to speak closer to the mics, okay? And Mr. Murphy, at $169,000, where would that place the JJC Chief of Staff as far as amongst the higher paid employees in the county? Where would that put this person, Ms. Lord?
Well, I think the sheriff would be higher than that. I think the health officer is higher than that. Maybe, who else did you say? Oh, is my mic on? Yeah, it is. Okay. The sheriff would be higher than that. The health officer would be higher than that. Depending on overtime, there could be other high-level sheriff's employees that, you know, are up that high, but unlikely.
So without overtime, we'd only have 2 other employees that would be higher than that.
I think so. We can look at what the information's on on the state website, so we can. I looked at it the other day. There weren't very many people above that. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to hold this in committee for 1 month so we can get more information. I just, you know, bumping this person up to $169,000 to be one of the 4 or 5 highest paid employees in the county, I want to feel very sure about that, and at this point I do not. So I'd make a motion to hold it in committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I can't remember who was on the committee.
You are, Joe, you are.
So we had two.
Two yeses and two nos. Yeah.
I'm opposed. I'm opposed.
Okay. So that means that's a tie, correct?
And the chair of the committee
Five to-
cast the
So
vote.
I am going to vote in favor of holding it in committee. Okay. Moving on, we have Bill number 3625, salary amendment, same department, transfer of $233,513.
I don't know what that, this is for this department? Let me see what you're doing. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, the other one is,
This is, yeah, this is related, isn't it? This is
the
related.
other one is Rachel Lucas.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was here on, and that's supposed to be just a transfer of $42,000.
So I mentioned that, so you just want to repeat that,
Okay.
because
so-
I didn't know which one.
Mr. President, good evening, James Masters. On behalf of Judge Laura Sapia, my address is 350 Columbia Street, South Bend, Indiana. I'm not sure what the $233,000 number is. Understood there were two transfers being made. One was for the Chief of Staff, which you just addressed and sent back to committee. The other was, should be more relatively straightforward, and that's to fund $42,000 for the Director of Policy Management and Development.
This is what we have. This is what we have. It shows $233,513.
Hi. Excuse me, so you guys have submitted two requests.
Okay?
One request, that the one that you're on right now, is just showing a transfer of the 233,513. This one is going from executive director to the chief of staff, the judicial referee to the referee director of policy, and the probation officer to referee director of policy. This is also labeled a Form B at the top. I'm happy to share my paper so that you,
No, I'm looking at it now.
okay.
Well, what we'd like you to do is approve the other aspect of this transfer, which is the judicial referee and referee director of policy transfers. That person is already working as a referee. Will not be retroactive. This will simply be adding, because the person is working part-time now, the person will now work full-time with added responsibilities as Director of Policy Management and Development, with an increase of $42,000 for those additional responsibilities. And the funds are already allocated in the appropriation. There's no increase in funds to do this. It's merely a transfer.
So that $78,000 that's showing for the judicial referee, that would be the total for that position? No?
For the judicial referee, yes.
Okay. But, so I don't see anything with 42.
No, we're asking for 42 to be added to that.
Yes,
We're
I
very
know.
confused, I guess.
To make it clear, the referee position remains at $78,000. It's an additional $42,000 for the additional responsibilities as Director of Policy Management and Development.
So that job is being changed. That's not really, is that reflected here? That's not
That-
reflected here.
That 42,000 is on the ordinance that you just held in committee. So
Oh.
it's on the second page. You can see the transfers are from travel and mileage, repair and information technology, the referee director of policy plus FICA and perf.
Okay, well,
Sort of travel and mileage. Is that what's it, John, 32020? Travel and mileage that we were looking at
Right.
on page 2, yeah.
So it is funded in the budget.
What's that? I'm sorry.
It is a budget transfer, so that means it is funded in the budget if you want to go ahead and do that.
Steve, you grabbed a mic. Did you want to
I did,
weigh in?
am I on?
You are, it's just not
You
very
might
loud.
think of the second one that you're looking at now as the transfers of the original salaries to the new job titles. And the first one that you tabled as the additional dollars being added for new duties. The second one you're looking at now is for the original salaries that were already approved so that you could have new job titles into those new line items. That's this one now. The one you tabled was for the additional dollars to be paid for additional duties.
Okay.
All right, so we already approved this at the public I mean, this has been approved? We approved this at our public hearing, you mean?
No.
Oh, okay.
If I may. May I?
Yes, Councilman Tanner.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hess. If I can try to break it down, while these two bills are connected by way of involving the same employees or overlapping employees, the first one included a change in where the money was coming from, which was largely mileage and IT-type funds, to fund higher pay than what had previously been approved. This is not changing the pay that has previously been approved, but it is adopting the new titles. So they can be approved independent of each other. It's a matter of choice then for the committee, which I'm not a part of.
So any questions about this? So this is the original language we looked at with 146,000 and so forth. Any questions about this? Yes, Mr. Schatzel.
I'm going to ask Mr. Tanner a question based on his summary. So, Mr. Tanner, what you're saying is we're simply approving the new titles.
The dollars here are the same as what have already been approved, but the titles are the new thing that we're approving.
So we're simply approving the new titles.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's no money involved.
Can I make a?
With an exception.
Make a statement with an exception. On the third line, you're doing a probation officer. They're using 9,185 from a vacancy. That is a bump. So just to be clear there.
That is a what?
A bump in pay
A
from the
bump.
78,000 from line 2.
With the corresponding deduct on the probation officer one salary.
Right, because yes,
It
yes,
still does balance out.
it does.
And that's here.
That's under the judicial referee.
Yes,
Again, just a transfer.
It is.
yes.
Balanced,
Well-
balanced, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is a bump
Yeah.
for sure in the salary, so. Any other questions about this?
Can I ask a question? Not being on the committee. Mr. Masters, just a question. So we're trying to understand this, and I think, one of the top responsibilities of the county council is just finding transparency, getting all the i's dotted, the t's crossed. So the first of these bills has been put on hold for a month. Is that going to cause any issue with the JJC?
While it's not preferable, it's something that was not unexpected, and I'm told that the JJC can function until the council has an opportunity to review this thoroughly.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not on the committee, so they're letting me, kind of add in some comments. But, this would come before the full council where, I think we would be asking similar questions. So I guess that's all I had to say. Thanks, Sam.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
Motion to send favorable.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this one goes to the full council with a favorable recommendation. And I've lost my agenda.
Is that all we have?
The next bill is also with the JJC. That's the appropriation of $16,518.
All right, you have that one.
Hi, I'm, again, Kristen Cooper, the controller for the St. Joseph Probate Court. I am here to request that $11,518.02 be appropriated as unused grant funds are required to be returned to the Indiana Supreme Court. These funds were from the Family Recovery Grant from fiscal year 2024. I am also requesting that $5,000 be appropriated to the promotion account in Fund 9159. It's the Family Court Grant. This was a carryover of some of those unused funds that they have approved for us to use this year, and those would be used in the promotion line, as I had stated.
So where are those funds now, those grant funds? Because you said you're asking that the promotion money gets transferred to,
They're in the cash of the fund.
all right, so,
This one is pretty routine. This
Right.
happens a lot.
yeah, so, because you had asked to keep that 5,000, right? So I saw that, so we're keeping that and just transferring it to a different fund.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's just the grant, right?
Yes, the grant that was unused funds from last year that they're requiring we send back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for? If not, do I hear a motion?
Motion send favorable.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this one also moves to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you. Next, we move to the Health Department. Bill number 3725 is an appropriation of $77,675.43, Department of Health.
Amy Rupie, Director of Finance with the Department of Health, offices on the 8th and 9th floor of the County City Building. And the appropriation request is actually for $276,000 plus dollars. Mr. Murphy asked that this form be laid out this way to show what is actually needed in HFI funding versus what we are losing in funding from the immunization grant. On March 26th, around 9:30 in the morning, we received notice from the State Department of Health to cease all of our efforts related to the immunization grant. We then met with Mr. Murphy that afternoon to discuss how to move forward with this. About a week later, we did find out from the State Department of Health that we do get to keep around $83,000 to utilize until June 30th. And that is accounted for in this appropriation request. What we are requesting is to offload those staff members that were funded by the immunization grant. Once the $83,000 is used up, that they be included in our HFI funding so we can continue with our immunization efforts.
Okay, any questions for Amy?
I don't have a question about this, but I do have a question about funding the clinic next year as we go into budget season. How do you, I mean, it looks like your original funding is drying up here.
The original funding has ended, and we were told by the State Department of Health it would not be offered in 2026. We did have that grant since 2015, so it did come as a shock that it had ended. The staff would be built into our 2026 HFI funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Catanzarite?
I'm on our committee, but thank you. Your last statement, Ms., you said that the HFI grant would absorb these employees?
Correct.
Moving into beyond June?
Correct, correct. That's why there is an overall increase over what we are losing in the grant versus what we need, because the grant was going to end, the grant cycle ended June 30th. So we still have 6 months that we would have had to budget for.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of the way I understood it was this is rather an emergency request based on an abrupt discontinuation of funding. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to send favorable.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moves to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you. And then the next request is from the prosecutor's office, and it's an appropriation and a salary amendment, really, a request for $5,234. Mr. Reisenhofer, Mr. Reisenhofer stopped me on the way here and told me it's also a salary amendment, should have been listed that way, so I'll let him explain.
Okay, Bob Reisenhuber, Prosecutor's Office. Office is on the 10th floor of this building. We're here to ask for an appropriation and salary amendment to be paid from the prosecutor's pretrial diversion fund, 7398. The amount is a total of $5,234, which will pay for paying a current employee their PTO that they've got coming to them, and all the fringe that's connected to it. There's approximately $219,000 in the prosecutor's fund, so there's money there, and it's gets a little bit each month too. So this person's been with them for, I guess, 23 years. So it's a long-term employee, and she's agreed to stay on and stay with Ken, Mr. Cotter, I should say, until October. So this is his payment back to her.
Is this related to the changes to the HR policy?
I didn't hear
Is
you.
this related to the change in the HR policy?
This is according to Mr. Cotter's
Oh, okay.
policy. It's similar to the
Okay,
county,
got you.
but it's by his policy.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Reisenhuber? Mr. Schetzel?
Yeah, so this money is coming out of fund number 7398,
Yes, sir.
prosecutors, I'm sorry, I forgot my reading glasses. Can't read
Pretrial
that word.
diversion.
Pretrial diversion. Oh, there it is, much bigger letters, that's nice. Okay, I just wanted to be sure I understood where it was coming from.
Yeah, that's right.
Any other questions? Now, do I hear a motion?
Motion to send favorably.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moves to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hess. We move on to miscellaneous matters. Budget and Administration Committee Chairperson, Councilman Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let there be light. Bill number 29-25, appropriation ordinance of the county council, petitioner auditor.
Good evening. Tom Everett with Barnes & Thornburg with offices at 201 South Main Street in South Bend. This appropriation ordinance would appropriate $4,270,000 that the county has on hand from the PSAP distribution of the county's local income tax in order to redeem the county's outstanding economic development income tax revenue bonds of 2014. So in other words, this ordinance would appropriate PSAP funds on hand to pay off the 2014 bonds early. Those 2014 bonds were issued to fund the construction of the 911 Communications Center. As of June 30th of this year, the 2014 bonds will be outstanding in the amount of $4,270,000, and the county proposes to redeem all of the outstanding bonds on that date. So this ordinance authorizes the appropriation of that amount in order to redeem the bonds. The county council would hold a public hearing on the additional appropriation at the May meeting and then would consider adoption of this ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions on the ordinance Mr. Murphy and Mr. Dalton are also able to answer any questions on the financial side.
Thank you, and I believe we've actually received quite a bit of information in advance from the auditor's office and Steve with regard to this. It's going to save the county some money to pay off these bonds early, and we have the available funds within that PSAP line to afford the county this opportunity. That's my general understanding of it, but are there any questions for the petitioner? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to send favorably.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Double check. We had a second. Joe, you on the,
Yeah, Joe's there.
I thought so. I thought so. But, well, we saw some papers slipping around.
Joe, you're always on my committee, remember that. Welcome.
That's it for me, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Tanner. We go to Land Use Planning Committee. Councilman Catanzarite.
We have before us tonight Bill 38-25, rezoning of the unaddressed parcel of land on Cleveland Road near Current. The petitioner is Heritage Land Operations LLC. And we have the Area Planning Commission staff here to give us a report.
Yes, this is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission Director with offices on the 11th floor of the building. This is a petition to rezone the property highlighted on the screen on the south side of Cleveland. It's just southwest of where Current dead ends into Cleveland there, just under 40 acres. The petition is to rezone from A agricultural district to I industrial district. The property to the west, south, and east, which you see is zoned I industrial. That was the property that was rezoned in spring of last year to allow for a data center use. And the purpose of this rezoning is to allow this additional 38 plus or minus acres to be developed alongside this for data center use as well as one comprehensive project. If you look to the north, there's an agriculturally zoned area that's farmed, and then to the northwest, there is an agricultural area that's zoned R single family, but then to the northeast, you see the other parts of the property that was rezoned for the data center last spring. And this is the property viewed from Cleveland. The site plan provided does show a data center use and some existing utilities. If this specific property has access onto Cleveland Road, as with any of the other access points onto Cleveland Road, these would be subject to county engineer approval. The county engineer also states that this will be held to the county drainage standards, as is any development. Additionally, a traffic study will be required to determine the traffic impacts of this development and what additional infrastructure or adjustments may be needed. The petitioner is proposing 4 written commitments. These are entirely consistent with the written commitments that the larger rezoning abutting is be held to. The first one, it's a prohibition on a number of heavier industrial uses. The second being requiring that traffic study once again. The third and fourth written commitment don't necessarily apply specifically to this property. They were proposed to make the entire site development consistent, and so there's no question in the future as to which written commitments apply throughout the entire site. The first of these is that 200-foot green space buffer along Jude Creek. This property itself will be outside of that, but that does run through the broader data center development that's proposed. Additionally, there's the written commitment that it'll meet local, state, and federal requirements related to wetlands, floodway, and floodway fringe. Again, none of that's specifically present on this site, but that is relevant when you look at the broader concept. This comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Area Plan Commission by a vote of 6-1. It is consistent with the future land use map of the current comprehensive plan, which shows this for light industrial use, specifically anticipating business, technology, or research parks. So it was found that a data center would be consistent with these proposed future uses, especially coupled with the use restrictions in the proposed written commitments. Additionally, this promotes Economic Development Goal 1, which is promote identified areas and corridors as prime locations for new investment. In this case, it falls within what the plan refers to as Area 6, Capitol and McKinley Avenue Priority Area. Just briefly turning to the other state criteria beyond the comprehensive plan. In terms of current conditions and character, while the parcel is zoned agricultural and was farmed up until this point, staff believes that development in Mishawaka, as it developed to the west, as well as residential development in the county to the north and south of this area, have really diminished the agricultural value of the remaining small agricultural area in Harris, southern Harris and northern Penn Township. So we do believe that at this point, the most desirable use for this property, given the coming availability of sewer and water service, as well as its proximity to arterial roads and to the toll road, is industrial use. There are no real residential uses in proximity to this proposed rezoning whatsoever, so we feel that it will have no impact on surrounding agricultural and industrial property values. And finally, given the fact that utilities will be provided, we feel that this would be responsible development and growth. Again, comes to you 6-1. There were 3 residents that spoke in remonstrance. Mainly, one of the consistent concerns was that this rezoning would, in some ways, help to spur additional rezoning to industrial throughout the county. Beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Klein on 3025?
Yeah, I have one question.
Mr. Rutten?
Sean, does the St. Joe County have a light industry zone in effect?
We do not. There was a time when we did, but the 2 industrial districts were compressed into one. How that operates now is what was once the more general industrial, like heavy manufacturing. Those uses now require special use approval. So it does have that extra layer of approval before the county council on top of it to allow for those uses. So it functions similarly to having 2 districts.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Klein from council members? Mr. Schetzel?
Thank you, Mr. Catanzarite. As I look at this, I'm pretty sure of this, but I'm going to ask you just for you to verify. This piece of land is not south of the Microsoft, southern boundary of the Microsoft property, correct?
That's correct. It's engulfed by the Microsoft property to the
Okay.
west, south, and east.
Okay. And the reason I asked that, and given one of your statements here, I think it's worth saying, is there are a good percentage, I think, of the population in my district, and I would venture to say in Mr. Rutten's district, that do find value in the land between the southern boundary of Microsoft and the northern boundary of industry in Mr. Rutten's district. They do find value in that land staying rural. And so I think we need to recognize that. And I am happy to see that this is not south of the southern boundary of the Microsoft property.
Any other questions for Mr. Klein before we hear from our petitioner?
Mr. Catanzarite, I'm not in committee. Could I ask a question?
Absolutely, Mr. Fig.
Thank you. Sean, first I want to say congratulations on your promotion.
Thank
I do
you.
appreciate it. Looking
Appreciate
forward to
that.
working with you. My question is on the statement of commitments. I know this is the general here on page 1, and it has F, nuclear power plants. Obviously, you don't want a major nuclear power plant there. But how about the small SMR, small modular reactors? Does that include in this? Would that be a separate category? If someday that might happen within
I mean,
5 to
we
10
don't
years.
necessarily define nuclear, but given the plain meaning, it would apply to those as well.
Okay, so they'd have to come back here to get permission.
They would have to remove, for this site, they would have to remove these written commitments.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else for a question from Area Plan Commission? Hearing none, I would entertain hearing from the petitioner.
Thank you. Good evening, Angela Smith from Dan Charner Associates, offices located at 1643 Commerce Drive. Thank you, Sean, for the great staff summary. As Sean highlighted very well, this is a piece of property that used to, once upon a time, be part of the original Brothers of the Holy Cross. It's been farmed by another farmer for some time, and since the initial rezoning has become available to the data center development here, because this is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the property has marginal use as agriculture because of the particular soils on this particular property, and being surrounded by the use on three sides. We believe that this is in compliance with the requirements as established by the Indiana state law for the rezoning. We're trying to incorporate this portion to allow for a cohesive, well-planned development. And we haven't gotten to the full planning stages, but this piece will be a critical part of how we move forward. We are making all the same commitments, just to be clear that there isn't any differences. So we understood going in that a couple of these didn't apply to the site, but in working with staff, we felt just to make sure we're fully transparent and consistent across the development, we would incorporate those as well. We're looking forward to moving this project forward and ask for your favorable recommendation.
Anybody have questions for Ms. Smith?
No, go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Schetzel, you're on the committee. I'll hear from you first.
Oh, please. Okay, very good. I know Heritage Land Operations LLC also owns other land in that area that would be adjacent to or nearly adjacent to the Microsoft property. Do you know of any plans that they would currently have to rezone any other land that they own in that area or to have it annexed by the city of Mishawaka?
Not that I'm aware of. In fact, I believe there's a residential structure on there, and so they specifically wanted to keep that with that property and recognize that this is going to be a development that they'll be a neighbor of for quite some time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tanner?
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
not on the
Tanzer.
committee, but go ahead, please,
Yeah.
please ask away.
Thank you. Just to be clear, you mentioned a couple of them specifically, but as the petitioner, representing the petitioner, you're not contesting any of the written commitments?
No, we actually proposed the written commitments. We included it voluntarily at the very beginning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes, Ms. Drake?
Can I actually go back to Sean and ask a question? I don't even know if this is something you know, but so the farm across the street, was there any interest in them? Were they interested in that property at all?
Petitioner can answer that better than I can,
Okay.
actually.
The farm across Cleveland Road is actually owned by the property owner that is petitioning with the injunction with WSP on this project, so they're the ones selling the land.
It's the same person?
Correct.
Okay. But they're not interested in selling the other square they have there?
Do you mean the kind of weird triangle to the, or
Right, the-
trapezoid, whatever you want to call it? to
Right
the
above
north?
the square, the triangle-ish,
They have not had any discussions about including that in this at all.
so they just want to sell their square?
Being surrounded by it on three sides, they felt that it would be better served with this project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion on Bill 3025.
Move to send favorably.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send Bill 3025 forward favorably. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay. So it goes to council favorably. Bill 3025 goes to the full council favorably. We have one opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill 3125, Mr. Chairman, is the next bill we have up for consideration. And we have Area Plan Commission staff here with us. It is a special use for property located at 12525 Anderson Road up in Granger.
Faryal Sharif, Area Plan Commission staff. Offices on the 11th floor, making my 2025 committee debut. This is a special use request to permit a massage salon in the office district. Massage salons are permitted by right in the business and commercial district. They were added as a special use in the office district last year to promote some flexibility and allow for them when suitable to the specific circumstances of an area. The property was rezoned to office in March 2023. A new office building with 6 suites just recently completed construction here. That's why the aerial still appears vacant. The office district most frequently accommodates office and professional uses, as well as some service uses with limited customer bases. The surrounding area is residential, the fire station is across the street, and then further north on Bittersweet, it starts to get more commercial. This is a new 1-story office building. The petitioners originally went to the health department to get permits to operate a massage establishment. They have them verify zoning before they issue permits, so the applicant came up to our office and we advised that a special use would be necessary due to the office zoning. This is the intersection of Anderson and Bittersweet. Within the same building are already some permitted businesses, including a locksmith service office, an advertising and marketing agency, and an insurance office. There are residential uses further north on the east of Bittersweet. This is an overall layout of the site. There are no proposed changes to the outside. And this is the floor plan for the suite where the massage salon would be. Both the facility and any practitioners have to be licensed. The establishment would be inspected for compliance with Chapter 113 of the St. Joe County Code by the Health Department, and practitioners must provide licenses from the state of Indiana. This petition went before the BZA and received a favorable recommendation. Given commercial uses further north along Bittersweet and residential uses to the south and east, a massage salon would be congruous with other permitted uses in office, such as a beauty salon or medical clinic. The BZA did send these with 2 proposed written commitments, which were recommended by staff. The first is to limit operating hours as a consideration to the residential uses around there. Additionally, currently in the office district, they are permitted 1 dwelling unit if it is accessory or incidental to the primary use. We wanted to add a commitment to not permit that. We suggested these just to ensure the operation is typical of others on property zoned office and that the use does not result in any excess noise, traffic, or visitors that could adversely affect the surrounding residences. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Sharif?
Yeah, I have a
Mr. Rutten?
question. So if they're running past the 9 PM, let's say it's 10:30, okay, so it's well past, it'll be dark year-round at that time. How is that written commitment enforced?
Yeah, I will admit it is a little difficult to enforce. When we received this petition, we consulted with the health department on it, and that limitation on operating hours was something that they're actually interested in adding to their ordinance in a future draft, so that was also partially why we added it in. But a neighbor could potentially call our office and say, hey, this is operating past this, and we could enforce it as a zoning violation.
So if the neighbor's gonna call the area plan, that would be during business hours, but if it's 10:30 at night, I mean, could they call the police?
Yeah,
And if it's once, okay, it might be hard to document it, but I'm thinking a repeated violation, how would that be dealt with?
Sure. So in the written commitments, it would state that can be enforced by the zoning and then by neighbors, so as in neighbors could bring suit if it becomes a repeated issue. Generally, it would be up to us to enforce it. The health department may potentially get involved in that if we believe something illegitimate as well is going on. I am not sure what the role of the police would be in a situation like that.
So if a neighbor was to take pictures night after night after night and then submit a complaint to Area Plan, would Area Plan then start out with a letter or a site visit
Sure.
during business hours to
Yeah,
start
it would be like
inquire?
any other zoning violation. We start with a notice that we send to the property owner, so it would go probably not to the person who's operating, but to the actual landlord, the property owner. And if we don't receive anything back from them within 10 days, we send a second notice, and if not, then we can begin a citation. We usually try to work with property owners first to come up with a plan of action or to allow them to remedy the situation, but if it's not remedied, then there is a mechanism to cite.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Sharif? Mr. Schetzel?
Are the folks who are going to run this here?
I believe they're here.
Okay. Would they be willing to answer a couple of questions?
Yeah, I mean, they're the petitioners, so.
Could you come up possibly to answer questions?
Could you please state your name and identify yourself for the record?
Hi, my name is Maya. I just have.
Can you speak a little closer to the microphone, ma'am? I'm sorry. A little closer to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Maya, and I coming from my friends. She have the business for the massage. I just have a little bit translate for her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have a question?
Yes, I do. Let me preface by saying that I have gotten several calls from business owners in Granger who have a business close to a massage salon that we have in Granger, concerned about late-night hours and other concerns. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm a little leery of this, quite honestly. And I would like to know, do you have does this young lady have some experience running these types of businesses where we could get some references that would show us that she's running them in an ethical manner, for the lack of better words?
Yes, before she have other business in Chicago, Illinois, and she was have the plan for the massage. We have to start with the low in the morning, 9 o'clock opening to the evening, 9 o'clock we was close, and he leave the store.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is this Ms. Shang?
Yeah.
Okay. I see the address where she filed this, shows her home address of Maryville.
Yes.
Is she planning on moving here, or does she have a business in Maryville too?
No, she have the business. Now we opening the massage license, and she was start and she moving here. She
Moving
need
here?
to stay here.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
because
see where
the
she's got
store
the-
not allowed to stay.
I see where she has the St. Joe County health permit, and she has her Indiana licensure.
Yes,
as a
she have
massage
everything.
therapist.
Yes.
How many other employees will be working there as massage therapist besides Ms. Shang?
I'm sorry.
Will there be any other massage therapist working there besides Ms. Shang?
No.
No, just her?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have questions for the petitioner?
Thank you.
If not, I would entertain a motion on Bill 3125.
I'd like to make a motion to hold this in committee for 1 month. I'd like more time to review this information and possibly formate some more questions. So I make a motion to hold in committee for 1 month.
We have a motion on the floor to hold Bill 3125 in committee for 1 month. Is there a second for that?
I guess I'll second.
Mr. Rutten, second to that? So we have a motion and a second to hold Bill 3125 in committee for 1 month to gather more information. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's going to be held in committee for 1 month. So Ms. Sheng, we're still considering this, but we're going to keep it on our committee for 1 more month.
1 more.
Yeah, 1 more month. Will that cause any big hardship on her for the business?
she say, can please the other officer help because she have no job and waiting for and she built a lot of money there and can please help prove then the business license and she can start the business. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would be hearing this again, we would make a decision on this at our May committee meeting, the fourth,
Yeah, we
the
have
fourth
the
Tuesday,
last one.
fourth Tuesday in May. So we wouldn't really vote on it until June, first
Oh.
part of June,
Have to go into the June.
right.
Oh, because because she know have another one is May 13.
Pardon me, ma'am?
We have another meeting is in May 13, right?
Well, no, because it's been voted on to hold it in committee for one extra month.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be voting on this until
May 22nd.
June 22nd?
June
10th.
26.
Okay, June 10th.
June 10.
So
Okay,
they need
so
to do
now
May
continue one more month, June 10.
Right. But we will need you guys to be back at our committee meeting, just like this, the fourth Tuesday in May,
It's the May 27th?
27th of May.
27 May.
Yes.
I'll make sure this gets communicated as well to the petitioner.
Thank you, Fario.
And can you also mention that there's a virtual option for attendance?
Yeah, I always provide them with the
Great,
Zoom link.
thank
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Fario, do we have a contact number for the interpreter? I see the contact number for the petitioner.
Yeah, let me reach out and make a few calls and see if we can get somebody here.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Bill 3125, Sylvan Committee, and that's all I have. Nope, actually, I've got Bill 3225. A land vacation, we have a petitioner, Mr. Doms.
Yeah, this is Sean Klein, Area Plan once again. So this one's actually pretty unusual. The Snowberry Road that we're familiar with isn't necessarily the Snowberry Road that was originally dedicated. Specifically, when you get a quarter mile south of 2, the original dedication veered to the east until it hit Tamarack. This was revealed through a title search, and the petitioner is the owner of that parcel there, and that's where the originally dedicated right-of-way effectively cuts through the property. So really, this is just an effort to clean up the title to the parcel. Obviously, the county has no interest in rerouting Snowberry to use this originally dedicated right-of-way. Doesn't provide access to anything. So Area Plan does recommend that this vacation be granted. Representative of the petitioner. Thank you.
Any questions for Area Plan before the petitioner gets up? Hearing none, I'll move on to the petitioner. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Brandon Dickinson, Denton's law firm at 10 West Market, Indianapolis, on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Doms. As part of the process of a transaction, Alta survey was ordered, and as Sean said, we found that during the Lincoln administration, I believe, the road was to cut at that 45-degree angle, and at some point, the county decided to just continue Snowberry south. But it is clouding title, and the request is to respectfully vacate it so that it'll be clean and off of there. And we're guessing the reason that this is just now coming to light in 2025, more than 100 years later, is because given that it's farmland, there probably wasn't Alta title searches done on the property at any time in the last probably 70 years. And so we're discovering this anomaly now and would just appreciate the opportunity to get it cleaned up, and happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Any questions for Mr. Dickinson? Hearing, okay, Mr.
Mr.
Sheffield.
Dickinson, I'm just curious how you came to the conclusion that this was during the Lincoln administration. What documentation showed you that?
So if we look at the survey, when there is roadways and right-of-ways, there's usually either an instrument showing that it was deeded over, Or in the early days, when the section lines were usually your roadway right-of-ways, it's in what's called the Commissioner's Records or the Commissioner's Book. And I believe it was Commissioner's Book 3, page 6. So the title company was able to locate that and get it off of microfilm, and using our surveyor, confirmed that the legal description of the anticipated right-of-way for Snowberry is not what it is today. So we did a little more due diligence, and that's kind of how we came to that conclusion. But I believe it was from 1864.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Dickinson regarding this vacation? If not, I would entertain a motion on Bill 3225.
Send favorably.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to send Bill 3225 forward favorably. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. It goes to the full council favorably for our May meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes land use planning at this time. Just had a question on with area plan. Sean, have you guys considered Bill 2825, the area plan commission? Do they look at that?
1725.
Well, I don't know, yeah.
1725.
1725. For some reason, I got a 5825 on.
Yes, we are in the process of considering that, and that will go before the Area Plan Commission in May.
In May? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. That
Okay.
concludes land use planning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Catanzarite. Going to held in committee, Councilman Catanzarite took care of the first one. Councilman Tanner.
Bill number 5924, Taxpayer Protection and Transparency Bill.
Petitioner will keep it held in committee.
It will be held in committee. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Nothing from the Rules Committee. We have no presentations. Monthly discussion on county budget. Is there any discussion? Mr. Catanzarite.
Since we have Mr. Dalton here, I'd love to ask him if we have any foresight as to where Senate Rule Act 1 might be, or how it's going to impact us. It's probably too premature, I'm guessing, to,
Yeah, so John and I will give our budget proposal presentation to the commissioners and to Mr. Schatzel and the budget working group later this week on Thursday. We anticipate that we'll be recommending extremely flat budgets into 2026. I looked at the property taxes. We're still looking at income taxes to try to get a clear picture of what income taxes look like in 2026. The auditor's office is also looking at fees and other revenues like investment earnings. But I think we can all anticipate a summer of very flat-looking budgets for 2026.
Steve, does
Thank
that
you.
also, what about the $2.4 billion in revenue shortfall that they just discovered late last week?
So the direct impacts are hard to predict.
Okay.
Obviously, there could be games being played behind the scenes to make cuts in House Bill 1001 that has not passed yet. That's the budget bill. And the biggest one that would come to my mind would be Health First Indiana, which would be at times on the chopping block as a savings for the state
Of
to not
course.
fund the counties.
Why
I
am
don't
I
know of
not
other
surprised?
things. There could be other things that would come up.
All right. It's always public health.
That bill hasn't passed yet.
Right, I know that. But, I mean, because this came in on the wire practically under,
We'll have a very different summer than we've had for the last 15 years. We haven't had a recession in a really, really, really long time.
well, that too. Yeah. Then there's that.
All
Well,
right.
that's what Mishler said. He was the most, he's not been this afraid or concerned since 2008, right? I think is what he said, yeah.
wow.
Any other comments on the budget? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Any other business anyone wishes to discuss? Any unfinished business? Okay, thank you. I believe we are adjourned.